friends will be joining. Maybe they will join later, but let us start our class. And today, um, I am going to discuss another poem from Abol Tabol. We are all familiar with this poem. In Bengali, obviously, you must have read this poem. This is Gofchuri, a very famous poem. And in the English translation, this is translated by Shukanto Choudhury as the Purloined Moustache. So here is our poem, and let us read this poem. This is a very famous poem, as I said. So the Purloined Moustache, Gofchuri in Bengali. Now you can see the illustration that was made by Sukumar Rai himself. This is the head officer Boro Babu, as was described in the poem. So let us read the poem. The Babu at the central works seemed always mild and mellow. How could we tell he would prove to be a most aggressive fellow? So the Babu, so head officer Boro Babu is the Bengali version. You know that. Central works. So central works head office. So obviously it has been translated as central works. He was a mild and mellow kind of a person, meaning a relaxed and calm kind of a person. He was always known to be a person who was never angry or did not become irritated. How could we tell he would prove to be a most aggressive fellow? So it was a wonder how this same person became very much aggressive and angry all of a sudden. So it was a very sudden development. Everyone was surprised at this sudden development. We had left him very happy, relaxing in his bureau. So he was actually sitting there in his chair, and rather in his room. He was sitting on this chair when suddenly he broke out with a truly shocking furor. So all of a sudden he started to, or rather he started to cry out in a very shocking, he created a great ruckus. So that is a very loud, with a loud shout, he became extremely aggressive, um, which was obviously something he was not known to be making, because he was a very mild fellow, as has been described. He sat up with a vicious start and thrashed his limbs about and rolled his eyes and cried, "Be quick, I think I'm passing out." So suddenly he was most probably dozing. He was dozing, meaning he had been having a short nap. And then all of a sudden he woke up with a vicious start and thrashed his limbs about. So he started to gesticulate wildly, throw his arms and legs about. So obviously here, this Borobabu, who was known to be a mild fellow, suddenly became extremely aggressive. He rolled his eyes. So it was a very strange thing for the people at his office to see, rolling his eyes and uh, behaving in a most restless way. So obviously we can see that it was a most unnerving kind of a situation. He said, I think I am passing out, meaning I'm going to lose my consciousness. So this situation was really a strange one. So some call for an ambulance and some for the police, and someone warns he will try to bite. So gently, if you please. So the people at the office, his colleagues, they were at a loss what to do because they were not used to his behaving in this way. So some of them called an ambulance, or they were uh, thinking about calling an ambulance. Maybe he has become very sick. That is why he has to be transported to a hospital. And some for the police. So some of them said that he has turned into a very aggressive person, and therefore he should be handed over to the police. And someone warned he will try to bite. Maybe he has gone mad. So, like a mad dog, he will try to bite. So, you should handle him with extreme care. So, each person had his own opinion regarding this Boro Babu or Babu. In midst of this, with thundering voice and features grim and swollen, the Babu roars, "Confound you all, my whiskers have been stolen." So now the reason for his discomfiture and his anger is revealed with a thundering voice, with a very loud voice. And his features, that is, his facial features were all distorted, they were become cream and swollen. So he was so angry. He roared out, "So can't you see, you fools like that? My whiskers have been stolen." So obviously, the mustache. So someone has stolen his mustache. So suddenly he had this strange kind of a feeling that he no longer had his mustache. A whisker thief, how could it be? Who had heard of such a snorter? So everyone, when they heard of this, they were extremely surprised because no one had heard that whiskers could be stolen. So it was a most unusual situation. So uh, here it means that something that is an extraordinary or remarkable thing that has happened. So obviously, a snorter here means a remarkable or extraordinary thing that was almost impossible. So, and there we saw the whiskers plane not shrunk the least iota. So, not a little bit, not even the smallest bit. So, it was there very much under his nose. So, the people around him, everyone could see that he had his whiskers. But the Borobabu was shouting and gesticulating, and he was in a very angry kind of a mood that my whiskers have been stolen. We told him so in clearest terms and held up looking glasses. So mirrors were brought before his face, and to just let him see that his whiskers were all right. We had never known a whisker come to such regretful passes. So no one till now has lost his whiskers in this way. So it would be a most regretful, most sad and mournful thing, a thing to be regretted if such a thing were to happen. At this, he really hit the roof and screamed to all the writers, "I don't believe a word you say. I know you lying blighters." So, but unfortunately, the Babu, he did not at all believe that the whiskers that were shown to him in the mirror, they belonged to him. So he said to the people around him, he really hit the roof, meaning he was at the highest point of anger, like that, and he was screaming at the top of his lungs, "I don't believe a word you say. I know you lying blighters." So it's an old-fashioned informal term uh, to refer to a person who is a very annoying or a kind of a contemptible person. So a blighter is that kind of a person. These whiskers like a dirty broom, all bunched and coarse and scary. So the whiskers that he saw in the mirror, he refused to acknowledge that they belonged to him. So it was like a dirty broom, and it was so very coarse and scary to see. I saw it once upon the lout that runs the local dairy. So the lout means coarse or uneducated fellow who behaves in a very undisciplined and rude way. So obviously here the Bengali version, as you can recall, uh, it runs like this: "Amon গোফতো রাখতো জানি শ্যামবাবুদের গয়লা." So here Shukanto Chaudhuri has not referred to this Shambabu, but the lout that runs the local dairy. So the person, the ill-mannered person who was Goyla, or who ran the local dairy. So the Babu absolutely refuses to acknowledge or admit that the whiskers belong to him. He says that it's not my whiskers. I'll murder any slanderous rogue who dares to say it's mine. So he's in a very uh, angry mood, and he is in a rage, all in a rage, and says that if anyone says that these whiskers they belong to me, I'll surely murder him. So it would be a kind of a uh, he would be a rogue, or a uh, rogue is a person who is obviously not a good person. So he said that it is a kind of slander that is being uh, kind of aired. And so he took his ledger book and charged them all a fine. So he brought out the ledger book where there the names of the employees were there, and he charged them a fine in all their wrote down fines besides their names. Then, puffed and choked with mortal rage, he penned a memorandum. The office staff are thick as planks. I simply cannot stand them. So here, as we see, uh, the Babu, when he was shown the pair of whiskers on his own face, refused to believe that they belonged to him, and he became extremely angry and decided to, as the head, clerk, the Boro Babu, as it is mentioned in the Bengali version, he decided to fine all the people, and he was in a state of extreme rage, mortal rage. So he wrote out this memorandum, and he wrote that the office staff are thick as planks, like wooden planks. I simply cannot stand them. So the spelling is a bit different, the poetic spelling. There should be another N here, cannot. But for the sake of the rhyme, I think Shukanto Chaudhuri has omitted this N here. And here also the D is not there, and not and. So these are done by when one has to translate a tricky poem like the poems in the Abol Tabol. So you mustn't ever give them rope, be taciturn and harsh. The pack of dolts have even failed to guard my prize moustache. So he was aggrieved that uh, you mustn't ever give them rope. Give them rope meaning liberty. You should not give them freedom to act according to their wishes. Be taciturn, meaning you should communicate with them as little as possible. So you should uh, be very, you know, not at all very talkative with them, not be familiar with them, and harsh. You should behave with them in a harsh and rude way, because these pack of dolts, these stupid people, they have failed to guard his prize mustache. His pair of mustache was his really favorite, but the people around him, they were so irresponsible that they failed to guard his prize mustache. So this is the reason of his anger. I wish that I could catch these chaps and tweak their mangy stubble. So he had a mind to, catch them and twist their mangy stubble, meaning the stubble here means their beard or mustache maybe, so which is very dirty and shabby and kept in a very uh, poor condition. So the uh, babu was getting angrier and angrier. Or chop their silly noddles off for causing all this trouble. So silly noddles is actually another slang term to mean head. So chop their heads off. So he was in such a mood, such an angry mood, that he wanted to chop their heads off. They think they own their facial hair. O road to all disasters, it's whiskers now that make the man, and they are our lords and masters. So the poem ends with this pronouncement that, as you know, the last line in the Bengali version, "Gofer ami gofer tumi, gof diye jai chena." So they think they own their facial hair. So these people, these stupid people who have failed to guard his mustache, they have their own facial hair, uh, and he is extremely angry at having lost his prize mustache, because mustache makes a man gives him a kind of identity or recognition, as the Borobabu or Babu says here. So this is the poem. uh, Mustache is a kind of a lord who lords over the man, the person who keeps a pair of mustaches. So this is the poem Gofchuri, translated as the Purloined Moustache. Now, obviously, if we look at the poem, purloined means stolen. Uh, the stolen moustache. Now, it is one of the most hilarious and dramatic of the nonsense verses of Abol Tabol, obviously. The Borobabu shouting and gesticulating about having lost his moustache. So it has, we are we first concentrate on the central character, who is the Babu, working in an office, in the central office, that is the central works, as it is mentioned. And he, obviously a calm and composed man, he takes everyone by surprise with his behavior. So the normal behavior is mysteriously uh, overturned during a quiet midday nap. Obviously, he was having a midday nap, but suddenly he wakes up, starts to shout loudly. He is in a very irritable mood and demands to know who has stolen his mustache. So it is not you know, the case of a stolen mustache alone. It's a pair of special mustache which gave him his identity, as he declared at the end of the poem. So obviously, he thinks that it is a nasty conspiracy on the part of his fellow workers, that they have stolen this mustache. And so he feels that this mustache, there were certain people who were behind this. So the prize mustache has been stolen by someone, and he looks like now, when he was shown his face in the mirror, he is absolutely um, not ready to acknowledge that the mustache that he saw was actually it belonged to him. So it would degrade him socially. So he says to his co-workers that this type of mustache is kept by the this lout who runs the dairy. So it cannot belong to him. Such a dirty and unkempt mustache. It looks like a damaged broomstick. So obviously, the humor is evident here, and at the same time, we cannot find out, or we are perplexed, like his co-workers, as to the reason why he is behaving in this way. Whether he has turned mad all of a sudden, or he simply somehow or the other he has become sick and he cannot recognize his own face. So it is a strange fancy, whether it's a strange fancy or an excessive sense of pride in his mustache. So his colleagues or co-workers, they do not find any change in the shape and size of his mustache. For them, it's the same mustache. So obviously, they think that the Babu, he is behaving in a most unseemly manner, and he's raising alarm and behaving in a very uh, unbabu like way, when everything is all right. But the Babu, obviously, he demands a kind of a support and sympathy for himself, and he is shocked that his co-workers would conspire to steal his mustache. So the employees there, they are punished by being by when the Babu, obviously, he is uh, berating them, scolding them in a very angry way, but also he decides to put sort of extract fines from them. So obviously, here uh, the words that he spoke out, "Be quick, I think I'm passing out," that he was going to lose consciousness. Uh, so that perhaps made his colleagues think that he was sick, he was falling sick. And that's why they uh, became very perturbed, and they were really trying to help him, which of course the Babu did not understand. So he keeps to his idea about what uh, harm has been done to him, and the fiery rage of the Babu reaches a climax towards the end of the poem. So now, underneath these outward actions and spoken dialogues, which obviously raises laughter in the readers, now these babus, they were employed during Sukumar Rai's time in the merchant offices during the British Raj. So the babus, or the boro babus, the head clerks. So it is a kind of a satire on these babus also. Apart from the superficial meaning, as we saw that in the other poems also, there were hidden inner meanings, uh, apart from the meaning that a child will derive, or a boy or a girl will enjoy reading these poems. But the scholars do not stop at simple pleasure derived out of a simple poem. So they have to find out some inner meanings. And here, the critics, they have concluded that this is a satire or a kind of a critique on these babus who were employed in the British Raj offices, and they had this habit of behaving rudely and always ordering their subordinates about. And anything that would go wrong, the slightest thing, they would boss about. So obviously, even if the Babu was in the wrong, he would put the blame on his co-workers. So they would try to punish their co-workers, and like promotion would be stopped, or there would be pay cut, or fines would be imposed. So like that, as has been mentioned here. So sorry. Now, there were also other things, meaning if you look at this comparison, when the Babu was shown the mustache in the mirror, he haughtily remarked that this mustache, it should belong to this goela, or the person who runs the dairy, the lout, the uneducated, a very rough kind of a fellow, uncultured fellow. So obviously, these people, like the Goilas and other people who occupied the lower strata of the society, they were looked down upon. So there was a lot of casteism in society during those times, more so than it is now, though there are still these things happening. So this poem obviously was written during the First World War, and the fact that the Babu suspects that a conspiracy is going on to uh, a conspiracy was hatched, in fact, to steal his mustache. Actually, so it was a common term, conspiracy, spying. So the stories were there about this during this great war, and maybe the Babu had read such stories, and he took a fancy to this, and suddenly maybe he was dreaming when he was having this short nap, and suddenly he woke up and felt that his mustache was stolen. So consciously or unconsciously, uh, Sukumar Rai portrayed this Babu in the image of course, the Babus who were found in these offices of the British Raj. So obviously, we can understand the pride that is there in his heart. He is so enamored, or uh, he loves his mustache so much. He is very proud of his mustache. That is, it is a unique kind of a mustache. So obviously, he thinks that it is great and important enough to uh, merit stealing. So, and he is also of the opinion that it would degrade his personality or his social status if the mustache is stolen. So obviously, all these things, this combine together to make this poem a kind of you can say an enjoyable reading. It is in the kind of a mock heroic tone. So we are reminded of Alexander Pope's The Rape of the Lock. So obviously there Belinda's hair was cut off, and you know what happened as a result. So it was a kind of a, obviously, Pope's poem is a mock heroic poem. And here also, Sukumar Rai may have been slightly influenced by this mock heroic tradition. So, as an insignificant thing or a thing that didn't happen, it was made into a very big thing, a grand and unique thing, a matter of extreme importance. So, the Babu's memorandum, where he denounces his employees for being unaware of the fact that they failed to guard the stealing of his mustache. So it is also mock heroic in style. So obviously, the everything is the uh, climax is build up. It is building up as we progressed from the beginning to the middle to the end of this poem. And so obviously, the poem has its uh, appeal, and we can enjoy the poem at all these levels, mainly at the superficial level. And of course, if we remember the context, then obviously we would be able to go deep into the poem and analyze all these things. The fact of the time when it was written, and also the kind of portrait that we get here of this Babu, who was a kind of a representative of the uh, all those Babus working in the British offices, and they were extremely proud of their positions, and often they uh, lorded over their uh, employees, their inferior uh, people who were below them in rank. So this is the poem, The Purloined Moustache, and uh, and the analysis. So I think you have followed this poem. Let us move on to another poem. If you have any questions, of course, you can ask in the end. Here, there is another famous poem, A Marriage is Announced. So, uh, this poem is also a famous poem, and we all have read these poems in Abol Tabol. So, A Marriage is Announced. Um, it runs like this: I went to Posta, and they said, your daughter was about to wed, and Gangaram's the lucky man. So, let me tell you what I can. So, uh, here, the person who is the speaker here, he had gone to a place called Posta, that is in most probably it is in North Kolkata, I think, near Boro Bazar. So Posta, it's a business hub, business center. So he went on some business to Posta, and they said the people there communicated this message to him, that this person whom he is addressing, his daughter is about to get married. And there is this young man called Gongara, who is the lucky man. So he is the chosen groom. So let me tell you what I can. So he has learned something about Gongara and his family, and he is very, kind of in a very solicitous way. Uh, he wants to impart that information that he has gathered about this person called Gangaram, who is the future son-in-law of this other person. So you will remember the Bengali version. It's much more funny. Gangaram ke patra pele. It runs like this: শুনতে পেলাম পোস্তা গিয়ে তোমার নাকি মেয়ের বিয়ে, গঙ্গারামকে পাত্র পেলে জানতে চাও সে কেমন ছেলে. So it starts like this. You all remember the Bengali version. So I would ask you to again read the Bengali version, and then of course, the English version. Uh, the translation is good, but some of the flavor is missing. Yeah, I feel like that. Uh, Dear Gangaram's comely youth, a shade too dark to tell the truth. So, dear Gangaram, he is a very adorable kind of a fellow, and he is a most handsome and good-looking youth. But his complexion is uh, is a bit on the darker side, to tell the truth. So he would be truthful and reveal the true appearance of Gongara. And on his face, a constant scowl, a little like an angry owl. So you will remember the Bengali, of course. Uh, মুখের গঠন অনেকটা ঠিক প্যাঁচার মতন. So obviously his face, it has a constant scowl meaning a kind of a grimace, a kind of a feeling which he looks at in a very bad or in a very angry mood. So obviously it is not a very joyful or happy youth. So looks like an angry owl. So the resemblance is remarkable to the angry owl. His scholarly accreditations. So what are his educational achievements? Now that you have learned about his personal appearance, you must admire the young man's patience. So it is a remarkable thing because he has a remarkable patience. Why? He tried full 19 times to get his junior school certificate. So uh, in the Bengali version, we know how he 19টি বার ম্যাট্রিক এসে ঘায়েল হয়ে থামলো শেষে. So he tried 19 times. It's unbelievable. People give up after 3 or 4 tries. But this Gangaram was so persevering. He was really persistent. He sat for his matric junior school certificate, or matric as it is mentioned in the Bengali version, to sort of pass that exam. But even after, it was so unfortunate that even after trying for 19 times, he failed to obtain this certificate. He failed to pass. On top of that, he's rather poor. The wolves forever at their door. So they are really poor. The wolves at the door, meaning it's a kind of an idiom which means that they're to be always in a very, you know, poor condition, uh, financially bankrupt or like that. So first his appearance, then his educational qualifications, of obviously not to speak of his educational qualifications, they are not much, having failed in the examination 19 times. And the financial condition is, of course, not at all good. His brothers are a precious lot, for once a freak and once a sot. So the family members. Now this person is coming to the family members of Gongara. So once a freak actually it would mean that he is a strange kind of a fellow. So someone who has a very unusual kind of a person. And another is a sot. Sot is a drunkard. So someone he drinks too much. And one assumed the noble mission of forging notes and went to prison. So another person, he was engaged in forging notes. So obviously that landed him in prison. So he has 4 brothers. The youngest plays a set of drums in music halls for modest sums. So in the Bengali version, there is Konishthoti তবলা বাজায় যাত্রা দলে 4 টাকা পায়. So it was like this. So the youngest brother, Gangaram's youngest brother, he is engaged in a decent kind of a job, though it does not pay him much money. So playing drums. Uh, The tabla has been translated into drums here. Poor Gangaram's forever ailing with jaundice and a kidney failing. So he's always sick with these two diseases. So jaundice, obviously, that's a disease which affects the liver, and kidney failing. So that's another serious kind of a problem. So everything about this young man, who is going to be this other person's son-in-law, future son-in-law, uh, obviously it's not really very, uh, what can we say? They're not very favorable. But still, they're of a noble breed. But still, obviously, they belong to a noble family. The Grand Panjandram's direct seed. So the Grand Panjandram, so some kind of a grand family. Uh, in the Bengali version, there is কিন্তু তারা উচ্চ ঘর কংসরাজের বংশধর. So obviously you know the name of Kongsho. He was the maternal uncle of Lord Krishna. So here Kongsho has been made into this grand Panjandram. So the lineage, the family lineage comes from this grand Panjandram. So obviously someone very important and who occupied a high social position. And Lahiri of Bonogram is cousin now to Gangaram. So Lahiri of Bonogram. Bonogram means Bonga, uh, modern Bonga, which is in North 24 Parganas. And most probably the name Sham Lahiri is mentioned in the Bengali version. Sham Lahiri Bonogramer ki jeno hoy Gangaramer. So here it is mentioned that he is the cousin. So now you have got it cut and dried, a worthy match for such a bride. So now you have all got it. So all the information that uh, a bride's father would want. So you have about his future son-in-law. So I have provided you with all the information. So now that you have decided to arrange this marriage, the marriage of your daughter with Gangaram, he is a real good groom to be. And right from the beginning, from his appearance to his financial conditions, his, the family uh, members, his educational qualifications, everything, his physical condition, everything points to obviously not a very good uh, patro or groom. So the Bengali title is Shot Patro, as you know. Shot meaning here not honest, but a very good kind of a groom. So this is the condition of the groom. Now, another very funny poem, and we have obviously Gangaram is the butt of the jokes, all these jokes. Now, maybe apart from the superficial meanings, Sukumar Rai was uh, satirizing the arranged marriages in the Bengali society, which were horribly unjust for the girls. They were married off at a very young age. They had no say in choosing their husbands. And most probably, this person, the bride's father, he has chosen Gangaram without seeing him, without going to his house. Most probably a ghatok or someone who arranges these marriages, you know who a ghatok is. So he has brought news that Gangaram is a most suitable, future son-in-law, and this person has agreed to the marriage. So he's told about all the qualifications, the uh, what kind of a patro or groom Gangaram really is. So here, obviously, the girls were in those days they were married off to old men, uh, unworthy, who were obviously uh, such unworthy husbands for them, and often they became widows, as you know, uh, and they had miserable lives. So here, obviously, the criticism is directed at these arranged marriages, which did not consider the well-being of the daughters, the girls. So the criticism, the criterion of a groom, what should be the ideal criteria of a groom? Who is a good groom? So that is a prospective groom. So that is mentioned here. So obviously, he doesn't have good looks, not even ordinary looks, uh, but he looks like an owl. Obviously, his academic status is the lowest possible that can happen. Is failed in the junior school certificate 19 times. So it is kind of a marathon effort, and he deserves, obviously, he deserves his name to be entered in a kind of a record book for having tried or a number of failures, the highest number of failures. He does not have any luck with money or financial conditions. He doesn't have property. And obviously, each kind of so-called qualification of this Gangaram, when it is pronounced by this person, it really makes him all the more miserable in our eyes and unsuitable. So he has a chronic trouble with his health, uh, suffering from jaundice and all these things. And obviously, the family members, his brothers, they are they are not very engaged in good pursuits as such. And obviously, the person who brings the news or about Gangaram, he's congratulating this father of the bride, congratulating him ironically. That is quite understandable here. He's saying that you have got such a wonderful groom for your daughter that she will be really happy in her after she gets married. So ultimately, what would happen to her if this father goes on with the marriage ceremony? That is, of course, we can all understand and we can all imagine. So the poem, obviously, it is a criticism, a very strong criticism about these practices of marrying of daughters without taking proper, not getting the proper knowledge about these uh, son-in-laws, the would-be son-in-laws. So there is nothing positive about this Kongaram. So why should any father want to marry off his daughter to such a person? The last qualification, that he comes from a noble family, a noble ancestry, Kongshorajer Bongshadhar or Grand Panjandram, of course, is a real, really means nothing. So, and Sham Lahiri, though it has been referred to as Lahiri here, but he is a nobody. Sham Lahiri or Lahiri is actually a nobody. It is inconsequential, and it is a kind of an anticlimactic kind of an end to this poem. So Sukumar Rai has all these, whimsical humors, which we can see here, that is present in these poems. So the uh, young girls' fathers during the British Raj, they took a lot of troubles. They spent a lot of money to get their daughters married to such people like Gongara and make their daughters' future lives miserable. So this is a comic portrait, but underneath this portrait lies a real, uh, you know, criticism of this uh, arranged marriages. So we can say in our final analysis that on the surface, These poems, they look like nonsense verses written to entertain young boys and girls, and even adults are they are also they find these poems extremely funny. But Sukumar Rai had a kind of a vision, or he had a purpose behind writing these poems. He was not only trying to entertain uh, his readers, that was his purpose, of course, but criticism of these practices, all these things, what he saw in the Bengali society around him, he has put this in a remarkable way, in a veneer of fun and humor. Underneath that surface, if one cares to go a bit deeper, one would find his real intention, the satire or the criticism that is there. So this is the poem. We have done these two poems, Gofchuri and Shotpatro. A marriage is announced, and the Purloined Moustache. So these are short poems, and therefore, obviously, as I told you, that I would be able to complete maybe two poems in one day. So in our next class on Saturday, we will be doing Baburam Shapuriyar's Snake Charmer.